Thank you so much. And a very warm welcome, Amit, Amol, Manish. Always a pleasure to speak to all of you. I've got various instances in the past where I've learned a lot from all of you. And today, it's our privilege to have all of you on board for today's panel. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing next 45 to 50 odd minutes, right? A lot of interesting questions that we've got here. And we would gain a lot by getting to know about your experiences in and around today's topic around hybrid cloud and hyper-converged infrastructure. So without further ado, uh, you're all veterans in your own space. The best part is, all the three of you come from very diverging backgrounds, right? So I'm sure it's going to be collectively a very rich experience, right? So maybe I'll start today's conversation in a random order. I'll begin with Amol. Amol, today we're speaking about hybrid cloud. We're talking about hyper-converged, but
Yeah.
if we take a step back, I've tracked the cloud market for as long as I remember. Pretty much from the day it started, at least in India, back in 2008, 9 is when we started this journey. And I think cloud itself has come a long way since then, right? So my question to you is, do you feel the use of cloud has evolved over the last few years, particularly, the industries that you have catered to? How do you see the role of cloud actually evolve? Because, initially there were some test cases, scenarios that you tested your cloud on. And then I see a lot of organizations going full scale on cloud. What has
Yes.
been your journey around this?
Yes. Thanks for inviting me for this discussion first. So thanks a lot. So I'll just start with how we get into cloud, or what are the philosophy behind getting into cloud. So initially, as you said, it was more towards a server room where you just have an AC and few racks standing, and it started. And always a centralized architecture is the concept what people are trying to adopt, which will give you a better control. And the overall style of working was like everyone is going to come in office, and from there they are going to deliver everything to a customer. And there was no restrictions of, say, GDPR and all other things that time. So that is where all these things started. And majorly it is, if you look at the India IT boom, that is more focused on the development network, and secondly, it was more on the call center kind of a job. That is where it started, and where there was no such requirement of a cloud. But then as we started growing, and then people started looking at an opportunity of like what else we can do. And when this thing clicked, like remote infrastructure management could be one of the area,
Right,
where you can operate from here and you can maintain, manage somebody else's infrastructure. Then practically we started managing data center, which are outside of your company. Okay.
right.
So there are two things or two ways you can look at a cloud, which is a private and a public cloud. So not necessarily the first step was going on a public cloud, but like I was managing a project for a large bank where everything we are managing for that bank is not carrying any IT resource. It is all from here, 300 resources working from here. And all this is hosted in some data center, not in their premises, not in my premises. It is in some data center, like in India, Tata have a data center, and many other control layers and all. So it is hosted in their premises, and we are managing from here. Now, if you look at the both the parties, like the people supporting from India and the service which is getting consumed by that bank, for both of us, that is a cloud.
Right.
Nothing is in front of me. Maybe it is
Right.
in a specific data center. We know the data center, we have access to it, but it is a cloud. And that is where this all things started. Then this GDPR and all other things come in, where my clients are basically from European clients. They don't want to, they have some restriction to share the data across the borders. That is where then we started doing like, okay, then I'll come on your machine, which is in your country, in your premise or your known data center, and we will operate from there. So that was the second evolution which happened into it. And then I will say the third one was like Microsoft come up with Azure, or even Amazon come up with AWS. And
The
that is,
public clouds.
yeah. So it is more like they started sharing capacity what they have, which they might have created for their BCP, DR, and all other purposes, which is just lying around. And they started sharing with other similar type of customers or developing companies or service provider companies. That is where I think the overall full-fledged cloud concept came in. Of course, the traditional operators, means even I'll say it was very difficult to convince uh, a person who trusts into a physical data center, because you have security guards standing outside and they think like there is a hardcore wiring and hardcore security which is present. Going from here to a complete cloud. Of course, there are positives and negatives of both. Probably we'll discuss that in
Right.
further. But that is where I think that cloud evolution started. Now, our thought was more about clients' demand, how they want it. And secondly, means I have two sections. One is where I support client, and one is where I need to support my corporate. Corporate also, initially, every branch is operating separately with their own. But then again, with a changing landscape of security, vulnerabilities, and everything, we also started thinking about centralized control, not only data centers to be connected, if we can connect all the offices at one spot from where we can operate everything, from where we can govern everything. Of course, with that also, there will be some local requirement will remain. It is not like you can go off 100% from that. But certain things like AWS come up with, or Azure come up with O365 and all other capacities, which are like software-based services. That is where that landscape started changing. And COVID was one of the key aspect of adoption of cloud, where I will say there is a paradigm shift in people's thinking, like Skype and hosted servers and everything immediately went on to O365, and that is something happened overnight.
Right.
So that is where I'll say major cloud adaptation started, not only Fujitsu, but even other companies I have seen, like major cloud adaptation triggered with that. Our plans were like going 100% in cloud after 2023, whereas today we are already in cloud for our corporate applications. So
Right.
that's where the thing started and started changing. Yeah.
I'll probably get Amit in the conversation. Amit, as Amol mentioned, I think lot has changed the last 2 years, right? And I'll probably skim over the fact that when we hear about this one pet term that industry likes to talk about is digital transformation, right? But we should also admit that when we talk about any digital transformation initiative, it has to be very strongly, hard baked with your business objectives. I mean, you don't undertake any digital transformation unless there's a direct business objective associated with that, right? In your view, because you represent an organization which has diversified interests on it, you have a media house, and many other uh, sectors that you cater to. How have the last 2 years been, which have been transformation as a CIO to make sure that you take the benefits of, say, cloud to what you're doing to make your business objective fulfilled? Because why I'm saying this is because, as we all know, because this is not a one size fits all. Right? It has to be customized to your requirements. What has been the last 2 years been from a cloud adoption, which marries your digital transformation objectives?
See, basically, from last 2 years, I think everybody has learned the lesson that digital is the only way to run the business. There has been a multiple legacy system which has been going on. There has been a no digital enablement for a couple of processes. So we have learned hard way. First, we have to be digital in each and every corner of the business. Each and every business has to be digital enabled. So that digital enable needs deliverables to our customers, to our users. So for that, we need a backbone as a strong backbone like cloud. So what, as an organization, we have taken a call is that our business applications has been put in the cloud to ensure that we run 24 into 7 operations. So the uptime is very critical for us, because if the infrastructure is not up and running, we won't be able to run the business. So cloud has been very important pioneer in giving the uptime to us. Scalability is very important for us because we have some 20 days in a year, which goes to the almost 2 times of the traffic or 3 times of the traffic, where it's in physical infrastructure, it is really not human possible to drive the complete business with the limited scalability. So we have got a benefit of the cloud. Yes, there has been a digital transformation activity has been going on each and every department, which has been calling a huge compute requirements every now and then, and everybody needs data enablement. And the main thing is there has been a footprint for the legacy system, which we are still running it on to the on-premise also, because there is a need of our, because we are running a business in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities, where
Right.
network is still issue. If we get into the higher models of servers, networks, we really struggle for the services. So as a India, network is still a long way to go. And as per tier 3, tier 4 cities are concerned, yet another transformation is required for the network, and I think it will take another year or so as 5G is kicking in. So I think that will enable the cloud adoption and the hybrid infrastructure to be stable, to run the businesses in with very less downtime. And main thing is earlier users used to have patience to wait for the data to get delivered. Now users don't have patience. Users need the data on their fingertips. Now, with physical limitation of infrastructure, it is very difficult to provide that kind of a scalability in the business requirement, business demands, and the peak hours. So there, where the cloud infrastructure plays very important role, and where hybrid infrastructure delivers the performance, and we are able to manage the business the way it has to.
So Amit, you pick up on two things, and I'll get back to you on. You spoke about some of the inherent challenges that you see, especially because, like you said, your business involves activities in tier 3 and tier 4 towns as well, where issues around network availability exist. So I think the very fundamental challenge that you speak about is when I have a network issue, how can I go for a cloud deployment? Because at the end, a cloud deployment in its most basic form needs the internet, right? I think and I'll come back to some of the challenges. It's a great point that Amit that you spoke about. You also spoke about some of the real-time applications that you see in terms of cloud. So, but when we speak about cloud, we at 3D, and I'm sure I echo this across across analyst firms, vendors, and end users alike, that the true adoption of cloud, regardless of size, eventually will be, it's more of a hybrid IT/hybrid cloud culture, where you have certain applications residing on your on-premise private cloud, some residing on a public cloud, and as the case may be, you use a public cloud environment to do some computation and get it back to your system. So I'll probably share a data point here, and Manish, I'll get you into the conversation. So Manish, this is a part of the process that we did. All our friends have joined us today to listen to our panel. We did a dipstick to 3 to 4 questions to get their viewpoint, because it's very important that this discussion becomes 360. It's just not about us, but it's also having their views incorporated in our conversation. So one of the questions that we started was, how will hybrid cloud adoption support the growth of your organization? So Amit, like you mentioned, earlier there was a lot of discussion about lowering the total cost of ownership. Now, as you can see, surprisingly, that is not the number one reason why people are going for, say, hybrid cloud deployment. What they're truly going for are managing workloads, or applications between a public and a private cloud setup, enhancing operation efficiency, and, like you said, improving scalability and flexibility of work. So I think the fact that cloud has come a long way, because the reasons of choosing, say, a hybrid cloud setup have also evolved over the last few years. Manish, in your view, I just shared 3 data points with you in how companies are using hybrid cloud. Do you echo with what you just heard? What is your view to this?
Yeah, I'm somewhat agree with Mr. Amit. But there are also a few points I would like to add over here is
Please.
nowadays, since technical skill people is also a challenge to retain them, to manage them and keep with us only. So this is also one of the key portions to, migrate to cloud. Because when you are having everything in your on-prem, you need your own dedicated resource to manage that and to
Right.
keep them all the time with you in this, very fast moving current scenario where people simply change the job with having some little bit amount plus, and the people simply move to the another organization. So in this scenario, keeping them with us is also one of the challenge. So while you moving to this hybrid cloud, this way you can also avoid such kind of trash or such kind of things to be sidelined. I mean,
Ah, Manish, I think you're giving an important perspective. What you're saying is the fact that you need dedicated resources to manage your on-premise setup
yeah,
using public cloud or a cloud setup or a hybrid cloud setup actually helps you in somewhat mitigating the challenges of having a very large IT team. Is it, if I've got
yes.
what you're saying is correct? I mean, interesting. I mean, I never saw this as a reason for you to consume cloud services, but it's a great point. Probably I'll come back. I'll come back. I think a lot of you spoke about some of the challenges, and whenever we talk about any cloud deployment, right, or any technology deployment, there always are bound to be challenges, right? In your experience, Amit, because you spoke about it, then probably I'll get Amit, Amol, and Manish also into the conversation. Amit, when we speak about, say, a hybrid cloud setup, we clearly know some of the benefits or drivers behind having a hybrid cloud setup. Very clear, right? You have, the flexibility that you get, the operation effectiveness that you get, and the fact that you scale in and scale out as per your requirement. And and yes, not and always to suggest that all of this, if done properly, probably can help you in reducing your total cost of ownership. Having said so, most of you, have a lot of, legacy IT infrastructure. Lot of you have, you know, your shops across the country, right? In a situation like this, what are some of the challenges that you have faced when considering hybrid cloud? And maybe a few lines of how one could mitigate or manage that. I'll start with Amit and then go to Amol after this.
See, as far as our complete group is concerned, tier 3 and tier 4 cities or towns are have limited infrastructure in terms of cooling, UPS. So there are a lot of challenges comes whenever there is a failure happens, when there is a environment, data center environment is required. So chances of failure is too high because we are not able to provide the proper power, proper ACs, proper infrastructure. So then and then so forth, we are also not able to get the services to the tier 3, tier 4 cities because of the TAT which has been given by the service provider is too high. So example, if there is a part failure, if there is something network failures, we are unable to manage that with the local skill sets. As Manish was saying, manpower is a critical infrastructure. If you take an example of hybrid infrastructure also, if skill set doesn't reach to the site in terms of physical infrastructure things, a single point of failure causes the business losses and business stoppage. So there are challenges in terms of doing that. And apart from that, the cost of hybrid infrastructure for one site also becomes a very thin and very thick in both the cases to manage the business operations.
Okay, okay. Amol, before I get you into the conversation, I'll probably, like I said, this is a second data point I'd like to share with all of you. So this is from our friends who are all queued into our conversation today. So when we ask, what are some of the challenges in adopting or maintaining a hybrid cloud strategy? You know, uh, the top three data points that have come is integration issues. Integrating your on-premise data centers with a public cloud infrastructure. the basic integration is a big challenge. I think there's a lot of honesty and candidness in that, admitting that. Second is having a legacy data center. The fact that you have a monolithic architecture in your data center vis-a-vis a more virtualized microservices based architecture in a public cloud environment leads to a lot of complications. And interestingly, to what Manish said, this is a challenge here, is just upskilling your IT teams to manage multiple cloud scenarios and integrating it with your data center. So I think very, very pertinent issues. No surprises here, but I think very relevant findings. Amol, what is your view to this? What have been, because you've been the advantage, and the reason why I asked this question to you, Amol, is you are not only a user, but you're also consultant to many end users. So what is the journey, and how do you, as a CIO, what are some of the tips you'd like to give to manage this? But before that, yes, your views on this challenge.
Yeah, so I agree with what Manish and Amit said. For me, the challenges are little in a different way. Same challenge, but I'll say the perspectives are changing here a little bit. So basically, as an IT company, we have 5 different offices, and like IT office, they will always provision for a data center, AC cooling, everything. Yes, everything is good here, but then also maintaining a data center at 5 different sites, maintaining the similar type of resources capabilities at 5 different sites, making sure that all these 5 sites are available from the data center standpoint is always a difficult.
Right.
Replication of data. Because of the replication of data, you need a huge bandwidth in between. Then you need to look at you need a storage resource, you need a backup resource, you need server administrator, and you are doing a duplication of resources across. When I say resources, not necessarily a human resource only, but even a physical resource, what we require. So that was one of the challenge, and that is where a cloud helps us. Secondly, I will say managing a data center is not a very simple job. And particularly if you want to manage a tier 3 data center with a traditional architecture where you have server, network, storage, everything separate, then you need to look at power, cooling. So it is going to be a very lengthy job, and not necessarily everywhere you will get a office on a first floor with a proper concrete strengthening and all. That is like data centers physical challenge. Like currently operations are like there is a workspace available. Your company is going and say, I need a space for say 2,000 guys or 100 guys or 200 guys. Every time you cannot get a required data centers there. Scalability and movement is also simpler. Like if I want to shut down an office and move somewhere else, which happened during COVID, like many offices got shut down. So in such cases also, it is a difficult thing for us to shut down a data center and recreate it anywhere else. So our thought was always to do a centralized data centers and come up to a centralized infrastructure in one city, and where we own the office. But then also managing this particular site at the level of availability, what we commit. Like if I am telling my clients, means my internal clients, I'll say all users, like you're allowed to work from home and you're allowed to work from office, I need to make sure that they are able to connect to my office 99.99%. And when I say 99%, I have a very small gap of say 22 minutes of downtime. Now maintaining everything to such a high availability is always a challenge. And that is where we always thought about from BCP disaster recovery standpoint, we should have something on premise where all my local guys are connecting, and on cloud, all my external guys are connecting. There will be a sync in between, and all will get the similar type of data at the same time. So that is what we look at. The resource challenge, what you talk about, for me, it is little different. I'll tell you why. Because here we have all our exchange and everything in front of us. Once we migrated to cloud, these guys practically left me, saying that what we are going to do, everything is moving on cloud, and that is a separate challenge. Like I never face a challenge of maintaining the skill level, because people are very eager in IT industry to upgrade their upscale their skill. It was difficult for me personally, or even a management team, to get to a speed to this new terminologies of cloud, because that 4C structure came in, like code cluster, all other things came in picture. And then it is difficult for us to cope up with that entire thing. Then AWS will talk different terminology, Azure will talk different terminologies, vendors are talking different terminology. And from a security standpoint, your every vendor started selling zero trust overnight, and which is like confusing to everyone. Like how we are going to do that, and that resourcing challenge, or that I will say competency challenge, what we face, where people are leaving us because we are not on a right technology. They want us to be on a cloud. They want us to be on the highest technology which is possible. And if you are staying on the on-premises only, then there are separate challenges of connectivity and all other things because availability and security are the key things for us. And that's starting from the end user PC to the data center. So that is where we face the challenges.
But Amol, help me understand one thing. Like I said, there are times when a lot of organizations, or at least I speak to, I understand that you have a hybrid IT setup where you are using an on-premise setup along with the public cloud infrastructure. But a hybrid cloud setup, there's a difference between a hybrid cloud setup and a hybrid IT setup. Hybrid IT is usage of both on-premise and public cloud. You're not completely cloud native. Hybrid cloud is you have a certain workload residing on your on-premise or private cloud, and for certain applications, it could be a cloud burst or testing and developer environment. You use a public cloud infrastructure and you get the workload back to your on-premise. That is a typical hybrid cloud scenario, right? Have you done that within your organization, and any challenges that you faced?
Yeah, definitely. So I have multiple such use cases which are related to our client and also for the services which we provide. So when it comes to a DevSecOps kind of a thing, where we need to develop here, just excuse me. So we need to develop something. We need to test it. Now for everything, if I'm using a cloud which is a hosted cloud and at Azure or AWS, then it is little difficult and then resource hungry. Then people are going to connect constantly. Even I need to think about a consumption. Pay as you go sounds very nice. But when it comes, the last bill get produced, then calculation versus what is coming as a bill.
Absolutely.
And little confusing, I'll say. A calculator shows something and the real bill comes something different. Plus, here you have freedom to work anytime. And if you're doing the dev test, then multiple times I need to recreate the virtual machines or a server or a test bench. And that is where we adopted, like my development and test will happen on premises at our data center. Once we have tested it, we have two instances on cloud. One is again I will say a UAT instance where user testing will happen through our client. And once client says yes, it is good to go, then we will push it to their machines. Now, when I say their machines, it could be an ATM machine, it could be a teller machines, a kiosk which you see in shopping malls. And so and that numbers of those machines are like huge. Like as I was talking about a bank. Now, just imagine a European bank which is there in 31 countries. And now think about number of ATMs they must be operating. These ATMs are connected to their cloud, which we call as a production cloud. And the UAT test cloud is hosted by us. Their development is hosted in my on-premise cloud. And their test machines, which is like, I will say, the application testing is also happening on-premise. Now, can I keep a different looking instances for this? Then I will not come to know like how that application is going to look on that particular ATM.
Right.
I need to practically replicate all those things, and all should look same. And that is where the having an on-premise cloud kind of an environment helped us. Like my on-premise things look same like Azure cloud. Okay. And so we are doing our dev test over here. Nothing is changing for user. They are aware like what it is going to look like in UAT. Where UAT testing is happening in client know exactly how it is going to be seen on their kiosk machines or ATM machines. And that's the where all the flow is in sync. Today, when I'm looking at a testing, so I'm pretty confident, like, okay, what he is testing and saying, oh, this is going to work, this is going to work. And there will be no change into it. So it
Right.
gives us also confidence while going to a customer. Like, yes, so what we are delivering is appropriate and it will work as is.
Thank you. Thank you, Amol. Manish, I'll get you into the conversation. See, Manish, as you saw, when we speak out, speak about some of the challenges, in maintaining a hybrid cloud strategy. One challenge which clearly comes out is, having your legacy data centers. And Amol also, I think, spoke about, how tough it is to just manage a data center. So, what is your view around, of late we've heard of a term called data center modernization. So, as a CIO, and I'm sure probably each of you have your own views to data center modernization, because I would like to introduce the entire concept of data center modernization, because then I'll probably get us to speak about hyper-converged infrastructure, how that is one of the key enablers of data center modernization. But before that, maybe Manish, in your view, like I said, you also have, I'm sure a lot of legacy workloads residing on a data center. How do you see this entire concept of data center modernization in your basis, your experience and background?
So modernization of data center is required nowadays because there are multiple technologies is coming to the end of the age. Like many legacy database, legacy software, legacy applications is going to be changed in a certain way. Like give you example of SAP. Till date, SAP was working with the on-prem solutions. Now SAP has decided to work only on cloud kind of a terminology. So they stop giving license to on-prem. So there are many other applications. So this is one of the example. There are many other good ERPs and applications. They start working only on the cloud solution. So it's all this force us people like us to think on something, moving ahead from on-prem to going towards the modernization of data centers. So those are also hidden force, I would say, which we need to consider.
Amit, what is your take? Like I said, every organization, depending on the requirement, will have a different take to this. When you think of data center modernization, what are some of the key areas that come to your mind that, as a CIO, you have embarked on or planning to deploy?
See,
And do you feel the requirement at the first place?
See, as far as Amol and Manish was saying, there are business cases. Which business case requires your physical infrastructure? Which case requires your remote operations? Now, in manufacturing industry and media industry, there are infrastructure which is bound to be there next to your manufacturing. Whatever cloud we bring in, it won't replace it. Like, for example, there are machineries which are running, which needs physical infrastructure, servers, setup to be next to the manufacturing. That may not go to the cloud. But there are applications which are being utilized by the customers, which by utilized by the internal users, ERPs, email solutions, definitely going to be in the cloud. And there are applications which are legacy applications, which we are dependent on third-party vendors, we are dependent on our internal users, businesses, which needs to call for a cloud to have scalability in place. Now, in our case, there are multiple areas where the data center modernization may happen in couple of cases. In couple of cases, it may not happen. We may go for a side-by-side approach to adopt the cloud as we are already in the cloud. But there are areas which we are yet to discover how we're going to take them to the cloud, because clouds brings a lot of efficiency, a lot of independency on running the infrastructure without the skill sets, without having a dependency on the network, dependency on the security issues. So these are the areas I feel it's called by the business and business case, where it will all totally driven and drive from that particular cases, where whether we'll use the data center modernization, or whether we'll use the cloud, or whether we'll keep the infrastructure on premise. But as far as our case is concerned, we may go at 30-40% on the physical infrastructure, and remaining will be on the cloud as far as the manufacturing is concerned.
Sure, Amit. Amol, as I was saying, when we speak about data center modernization, one of the key elements of modernizing data centers, and as we've all noticed in some capacity, many of you, the three fundamental building blocks of a data center: server, storage, and compute, right?
Yes.
Sorry, server, storage, and networking. What do you say? Server, storage, and networking. The initial foray of modernizing our data centers was through server virtualization primarily. And if
Right.
you saw, that was also the founding pillar or chassis of cloud computing as we know. It provided us the necessary flexibility and scalability to our compute capacity, right? And we've evolved, we've come up a long way since then. So, virtualization conceptually has grown over the last couple of years. And earlier we used to have traditional data centers, then we saw the coming of converged infrastructure. And nowadays, there's a lot of discussions and for good use around hyper-converged infrastructure. So
Right.
we asked our friends, and I'll probably take your cues to this, Amol. So we asked our friends about what they feel are some of the business drivers for adopting or considering hyper-converged infrastructure. So again, calling out the top three. One was ease of scaling. Second was improved application performance, and the third was greater resource utilization or sharing. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about hyper-converged infrastructure, it's all in a box solution, right? Your storage, compute, and network are residing on the same box.
Node, yeah.
So the entire peak performance outputs, scalability, flexibility of deployment goes hand in hand with, say, and the entire architecture of a data center starts getting replicated like that of a cloud setup,
Right.
which is why they say it is a very, very effective means for a seamless hybrid cloud transformation.
Right.
In your experience, have you ever considered going for hyper-converged infrastructure? And if so, what were the compelling reasons for doing that?
So right now I am on a hyper-converged infrastructure for my virtualization, which I talked about.
Okay.
So basically, why people are so attracted towards the public cloud is that term of pay as you go. Okay.
Right.
Easy scalability, and I will say easy serviceability as well. So there are no multiple components. There is one component and you can configure, just log in and you can do everything.
Right.
I want to give a same experience to my customers
Right.
on premises. Like we have data center, as I said, we created a tier 3 data center here and it is already in use. Now, just because everybody is going on a cloud, I'll also go on a cloud and demolish everything. It's not a good thought. I also need to think of the investment which I have done here. At the same time, if I look at, as you said, it is having a compute, network and storage together. Now, traditionally, we are keeping all these three things differently. So you have three different touch points to maintain with three different dashboards, three different security, three different patching. Everything is different. As a CIO, I always consider like if I can get everything in a one console.
Right.
It is getting managed from one console where I will get a visibility like what is consumed, what is remaining, what I need to scale up. Of course, a thought of cost will also come as a CIO of the job is cost also. Now, in this model, suppose my overall requirement is coming, say 70 TB of storage with X amount of computing. I'll always think like, am I going to use this 70 TB on first day? And the answer is no. And
Right.
that is where I am looking at a scalable model. Like it is as good as a pay as you go, which you are getting on a cloud. So I will install what I want today. suppose 2 nodes, 3 nodes kind of an architecture with a 20 TB of hard drives, and I can go ahead. Once I see 70% utilization, I can add another node, and I can keep adding whatever quantity required. Initially, when I was having these 3 different things, then I need to talk to 3 different vendors for it.
Right.
Configuration, 3 different teams are doing here job. Now that everything is gone off. Now I can do it with a just add a node. Only you need to do a perfect calculation of your requirement. Of course, everybody keeps a buffer, which I'm also keeping some buffer into it. So with the buffer calculation and all, like it is very good to scale up. It reduces the overall data center space. Okay, how much I required before and how much I'm using today. Overall efficiency have increased. Then overall technology, if you look at now, we have come up from the hard drive to one kind of an SSD kind of a storage.
Or flash drive, yeah. A lot of flash storage is being used these days.
Even all those things are working great for us and bringing a lot of efficiency. And the kind of business we are in, people are fancy about more powerful systems.
So Amol, help me. I open this question to Manish, Amol, and Amit. And you may not necessarily confine your conversation to HCI alone. See, but whenever we think of deploying a new solution, right, we also have to think about some of the challenges associated with that, right? So I'll give you an example. For instance, when we talk about HCI, although there are ways to mitigate that, and I know there are analysts, I track the market. Some of the questions, at least that I have come across with our CIO friends asking is, the fact that you have out-of-the-box solution of storage, compute, and network. What if I need extra storage? Does it necessarily mean if I have to go for extra storage, I have to automatically go for extra compute? But that is a burden on me because I do not need that extra compute, right? There are ways and means to manage that. And then there are also times, like you said, everybody has their own challenges. One could be servicing such solutions, availability of solutions, and also your investments on legacy infrastructure. What if you're deeply invested for the next 7 to 10 years? So just asking your collective experience. Manish, I'll probably start with Manish, go to Amit, and Amol, find it off with you. Manish, what are some of the challenges while going for, say, a relatively new technology like hyper-converged infrastructure, even if you see the merits of deploying it? What are some of the challenges to deploy such solutions in your data center?
So the very first challenge is to migrations, how to migrate the applications. And the second challenge is to get the right resource, technically sound resource, who has the exposure to migrate the existing stuff to the this one, because it is very risky while you are migrating your productions things to some other infrastructures, right? And the third thing is how you will calculate, as my friend Amol and Amit has already told, that you need to calculate the exact your compute storage and the things what you want over there. So to calculate this, you cannot have you cannot assume, like, right now you are having example 4-core servers and 128 GB of RAM in your servers is utilizing 80%. The same has been utilized there on a virtual. That you can't assume as of now. So calculate the right mechanism, right resources is also need to take care while you're putting this.
Okay, thank you, Manish. Amit, your take on this, please.
Basically, whenever you are taking HCI in place, like our kind of industry, we need storage a lot. We don't need compute too much. We need scalability a lot, but we don't need compute and memory too a lot. So that becomes a bottleneck for our kind of a landscape to even think about HCI or even deploying the HCI. And even the platform becomes a compulsion, because there are multiple applications which work on a Unix, non-Unix platforms. And again, integration of that all landscapes with the current legacy systems, that becomes a challenge. And even deploying that in a skill set resource along with the skill set resource also becomes a challenge.
So Amit, I think one of the ways to resolve that, I mean, like you said, there are solutions where you have boxes where those are storage heavy boxes. In a sense, you have multiple storage nodes with predetermined compute nodes, which helps in scenarios like this. You may probably would like to look at that. Amol, before I bring you in, maybe last point that I probably thought of sharing with all of you is, when we speak about hyper-converged infrastructure, yes, data center modernization happens to be a very, very important use case, right? But along with that, even solution sets like VDI, or what we're currently going through, working, workspace modernization, or remote office, branch office implementation, where we have a hybrid work culture, because hyper-converged infrastructure helps you reduce your data center footprint effectively, right? So in your view, how do you see organizations of different sectors actually able to implement hyper-converged infrastructure and take the entire story forward, which is fraught with some of the challenges like you mentioned. But we all know the power that it can bring on to. I mean, at the end of the day, you are reducing your hardware footprint. There's no denying that. So what is the most effective way of looking at this to take our story forward as far as HCI goes? I'll probably start with you, Amol.
Yeah. So I'll say the key point is that the carbon footprint, what you talked about. Okay. Even this is one of the green initiative for us. Okay.
Okay.
Like I'm reducing my data center from say 20 racks to 4 racks. Okay.
Right.
So it's a big saving on a carbon footprint as well, and which we have marketed in our organization also. Like it's a green initiative. Plus, if you look at efficiency over cooling and all, now even tier 3 data center, when you talk about, then you are using PACs and lots of things. With the hyperconverged infrastructure, you just have in-rack cooling with 4 racks and you are done. So this you can deploy anywhere. You don't need to create an entire tier 3 kind of a data center with lots of securities and everything. Of course, that CCTV and FM200 kind of things will remain. But your overall like hot oil, coal oil kind of systems you can go away from. It will be, you can, as I said, 20 racks into 4 racks, which is huge reduction. Even your power consumption, even if I talk about the passive components, which is behind all these things, or number of connections. Number of connection is the most challenging thing for me. Because during 3 years, when nobody is coming in office, your data center is like a dead cave. Nobody is coming there and going inside. And then lots of carbon is getting deposited on your connections point. Sometimes it happens like something is disconnected. You need to practically go and clear the carbon and put it back. Okay. And it works. All those types of problems, which are like a very small problem to listen to. But then your entire blade chassis is down because of it, which is operating, say, 60 virtual machines. It is going to be far expensive for me from the business impact standpoint. And that everything is reduced. Now you want to separate storage and blades and all, where it is, means I need to track, means from the service standpoint, if I talk about their AMCs, what happened in these 3 years? Nobody knows. And that is where one vendor, one console of monitoring, one way of operating helps us a lot. And that is a bigger saving for me from the operational standpoint. Maybe cost standpoint, how much you saved, if I do a mathematics, then probably people will still say going with the 3 different components is cheaper or comfortable from the capex standpoint. But when you look at all operational things, the scalability, because scalability is very important thing. Like if you must have monitored this trend. When COVID started, first 1 year, organizations were standstill still, and there is no addition of a headcount in organization. If you look at second and third year, many organizations grew like crazy. Like my organization, where before COVID, it was like 6,000 guys, and today I'm at 10,000.
Right, right.
That scalability, if I start doing procurement with 3 different vendors and bringing things in, rather than that, I'm going on HCI way. I'm just buying one device, one box, and I'm done. So that is where I feel lots of efforts were saved. And I find it very easy to deploy. Of course, one challenge which I always face is this is a new concept in the market. How this HCI is going to work, how the licensing is going to work on this. If I want to connect to cloud, because you are talking about a hybrid, where something is on premise and same is on the Azure or AWS cloud, and they're going to interact with each other with the same control plane. Like I'm managing both the instances from a same control plane. Like I don't need to log into on-premises separately and cloud separately. I'm logging.
You need a cloud management platform which manages across the board. Right.
So all that is something which is I see a benefit of.
Sure. Thank you, Amol. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. Actually, we're just running short on time now. We are close to 50 odd minutes. Before I conclude, Amit, Manish, Amol, obviously, thank you so much for giving your inputs to this. But if I have to ask Manish one question to you, and then Amit, Amol, if you were to conclude, if there's one thing that you would want to see which helps you, use cloud in a much more effective manner, so what is that one thing that you wish to see in your future use of cloud?
So that is HCI.
Okay.
Like me, as Mr. Amol told, it's give me more comfort in terms of manageability, in terms of expanding if you need requiring features. So I think HCI is a
Sure. Thank you. Amit, your last words of how you effectively want to use cloud in your setup.
So I think, I agree with Manish, and this answer goes the same way. I think HCI will solve all the problems. It will become a simplicity to replicate your cloud and on-premise things whenever the business case allows you to go for it.
Thanks, Amit. Amol, you've added a lot of thread today by sharing your personal experiences. I'll probably request you to conclude today's session. What is that one benefit that you see going forward for the future of cloud that you see?
So I will say it's a extension of cloud on-premise, and with the same experience. No need a different skills to manage cloud.
Right.
And that is the beauty of it. Of course, Microsoft and all other parties are coming up with HCI operating systems, which looks like exactly like their cloud. And that is a benefit. We may need to work out pay-as-you-go kind of a model to charge back, but definitely the comfort what we are getting is far beneficial.
Thank you. Gentlemen, absolute pleasure hosting all of you. I learned a lot about some of the larger issues and challenges that surround ourselves when using new sets of technology and the benefits that are derived out of it. I'm sure our friends who have joined in today would also learn a lot. I would love to host you again in our future round of conversations. But for today, it's a wrap up from my end. Thank you so much, Amit, Amol, Manish. Absolute pleasure hosting all of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Amol. Bye.